All right, if you're a freelancer with dreams of working from a cafe in Lisbon or maybe somewhere on the beautiful Algarve coast, you need to listen up. There's been a massive update to Portugal's Article 89 residency permit. The entire process has changed, and we're going to walk through exactly what's new for 2026.
I mean, it's a powerful dream, isn't it? For years, Portugal has been this beacon, kind of seen as one of the most accessible gateways into Europe for entrepreneurs and independent workers. And that reputation, it drew in thousands of people. But that path, the one you've probably read about on every blog and forum, has just been completely rerouted. The old way is gone. Poof. But hey, don't worry. That's what we're here for. We're going to break down exactly what's changed and what the new road looks like.
So, what are we actually talking about here? Well, it all boils down to one thing: Article 89 of Portugal's immigration law. Just think of it as the specific legal key that lets non-EU citizens get residency by working for themselves. As a freelance designer, a consultant, or even a startup founder. And this brings us to the most critical update. And believe me, it is a big one. For anyone who's just starting to look into this, a major pathway has been closed for good. Here's the bottom line. That informal process, the one called the Manifestação de Interesse, is over for new applicants. This was the famous route, right? The one where you could arrive in Portugal as a tourist, start working, and then apply for residency from inside the country. Well, that option is officially off the table. And this didn't just happen overnight. It all started with a decree back in mid-2024 that basically canceled the old procedure. Then, a new law came in late 2025 to create some transition rules for people who were already in the system. And all of that leads us right here to 2026, where the new, more formal process is the only way forward. Looking at this really shows you the fundamental shift in mindset. The old way was reactive, kind of like jump first and build the parachute on the way down. You arrived, then you figured out the paperwork. The new way is all about being proactive. The most important step is now the very first one. You have to secure the right visa, like a D2 visa from a Portuguese consulate in your home country before you travel. So, with that old door firmly closed, what does this new path actually look like? Let's walk through the correct procedure for anyone starting this journey in 2026. Okay, so what's the new playbook? It really breaks down into 5 key steps. And notice how it all begins outside of Portugal with that visa application. Only after you have that visa in your passport can you travel to Portugal, register your business and social security, and then finally apply for your residence permit. It's a much more structured and predictable path. Now, it is really important to clarify something here. While the general freelancer route has changed, you can think of Article 89 as having a distinct, separate lane for a very specific type of person, the innovative entrepreneur. This is for founders of tech or knowledge-based startups. And the key difference here, the real kicker, is the requirement to be accepted into a certified business incubator in Portugal. If your project is innovative enough to get their support, this specific route under Article 89 is still very much active, though it definitely has its own unique set of rules. Okay, let's switch gears. If you're watching this from your apartment in Porto or Lisbon and you already have an Article 89 permit, you might be feeling a little nervous right now. Well, don't be. Let's talk about what all this means for you. First and foremost, let me be perfectly clear. Your current permit is safe. These changes are for new applicants, not you. Your existing Article 89 permit is still valid, and you can still renew it under the exact same conditions as before. So, deep breath. And hey, there's actually more good news. The 2025 legal reform introduced a new benefit just for people like you. You now have the option to convert your current Article 89 permit into a different category, say one for highly qualified professionals, as long as you meet the new requirements. This could be a really great move for your long-term stability. All right, we've covered a ton of ground, so let's bring it all together and give you a final, crystal-clear summary of where things stand with Article 89 in 2026. This pretty much sums it up perfectly. The key takeaway is that both the self-employment and the entrepreneur routes are still active, but how you get on them has changed. The old, informal manifestation of interest is gone for new applicants. The process now absolutely requires a visa first, while people already here have that cool new option to transition to other permits. If you take just one thing away from this explainer, please let it be this. The age of just showing up in Portugal and figuring out your residency on the fly,
that's over for freelancers. Preparation, planning, and getting that visa before you go is now absolutely mandatory.
So the final question is really for you. This new process, it's more structured, it's more formal, and it requires a lot more upfront work. It gives you more certainty, for sure, but maybe a little less spontaneity. So with all this new information, you can now decide if this more deliberate path to a freelance life in Portugal is still the right one for your journey.